Ladies and gentlemen, the obligatory photo. Okay, good evening everyone. My name is Peter Foreman. I am the president of the Sands Point Civic Association. Some of you may know me from some of my other roles. I'm currently Deputy Mayor of Sands Point, and I'm also the Commissioner of the Port Washington Manhasset Office of Emergency Management. You may have heard a couple of my calls during Storm Sandy. The Sands Point Civic Association is managed by and funded by many of the residents of Sands Point. It's a volunteer organization. To put on this evening was a tremendous labor of love, and we're really pleased with the turnout. So before we do anything else, I'd just like to show thanks to the Sands Point residents who helped make this happen. I'll keep my opening remarks very brief. The mission of the Sands Point Civic Association: educational and social events, beautification, advocacy, newsletters, etc. Importantly, we are a non-partisan organization. If everyone, or those who can, if you have a chance later on the way out, or at some point, a contribution towards the Civic Association and its efforts of $20 would be very welcome, and you can do that at the front desk, and we thank you. First, a few thank yous. First of all, to the Sands Point Civic Board. Can I ask the board members who are here this evening to please stand? Stand. A quick shout out for their names: Amreen Sethi, Edie Katz, Emily Bays, Georgia DeYoung, Jack Mandel, Jean Marie Posner, Larry Balaban, Lauren Edwards, Rick Ciro, Russ Berman, Steve Miller, Tony Nahas. But I left one name off that list, because we have an extra big special thank you to Joanne Sika, who took the bulk of the effort on putting on tonight. I'd also like to thank the Preserve and the Preserve Board for opening up its home to us, and to Preserve Director Beth Horn in pink over there for the unbelievable support that she and the organization has extended to us in this effort. To Alan Feinstein, who is from H on the Harbor, who's the caterer from this evening. Alan, if you're here, tell me, and I will let you. Thank you. Alan helped make this evening affordable, and we really appreciate your efforts. Thank you, Alan, very, very much. And lastly but not least, to the brief thank yous, Chief Latora and the Sands Point Police, including Lieutenant Rule, who are here this evening. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Lieutenant. I want to welcome a few elected officials. First of all, from Sands Point, Mayor Ed Adler, if you guys would stand as I read your names. Trustee Kate Coleman, Trustee Mark Silver, and I think Trustee Lynn Nayman is here. Town Councilwoman Dina DeGiorgio, and a special thanks to the residents and elected officials from the other Port Washington and Manhasset villages that are here tonight. So some of the other villages: Mayor Nora Higginson from Baxter Estates, Mayor Elaine Phillips from Fowl Hill, Mayor Barbara Donna from Plandome Manor, Mayor Ken Masika from Plandome Heights, Deputy Mayor Alvin Solomon, Plandome Heights, Mayor Lloyd Williams from Plandome. We have some Mayor Bruce Kennedy from Seacliff, Deputy Mayor Charles Cohen from Baxter Estates, and Mayor Pete Quick from Millnet. If I missed any mayors or deputy mayors, tell me right now. Okay. Thank you all. Just an important thing that most people don't understand: the Port Washington Sands Point, Manhasset extended community is actually a symbiotic environment. These villages, along with the town, work together. We work together at the Office of Emergency Management level. We work together at the mutual aid level. We work together in terms of lobbying for resources. We work together in terms of problem solving. We are one large community, and I thank all the mayors for their continuing efforts and support in those directions. On to the evening format. And I'm going to read this because I don't want to say anything wrong. Because of time constraints and the desire to get as many questions as possible, 2 of the civic board members have selected questions from the many submitted. If the question is narrow, as moderator, I will try to open it up so that both candidates can address the issue. Depending on the complexity of the subject, I will offer between 1 and 4 minutes to each candidate for their statement. Both candidates will address each issue. They will alternate who goes first with each question. Ben Young, our volunteer timekeeper this evening, thank you, Ben, will use a card to let the candidates know when 15 seconds left. Can you show us the card? Or will we just
I certainly can.
And he's keeping it warm. I believe we now have 4 cards. They nested.
Nice.
Okay, there we go. If the candidates go over, I will begin to interject. While this is not a debate per se, it has elements of it. One aspect is that the candidates are not to address one another directly. The candidates are not to have any notes, props, or communication devices on stage, but it's okay to begin with a blank pad to make notes. They've all agreed to the rules and procedures. To the audience, thank you again for coming out and showing your civic spirit tonight. I will thank you in advance for being respectful to both candidates. We are appreciative to them, very much so. So let's show it throughout the evening. Now let me begin with the candidate introductions. Tom Suozzi, on your left, Tom Suozzi is the former Nassau County executive. He's practiced as both a CPA and an attorney. He's the former mayor of Glen Cove, and he lives in Glen Cove with his wife Helen and 3 children. Helene, pardon me.
She doesn't like that.
And Jack Martins, on your right, is currently our New York State Senator. Jack is the former mayor of Mineola. He comes out of a family construction business and law experience, and he lives in Mineola with his wife Paula, who's with us tonight, and 4 daughters. We're going to begin the evening with each of the candidates making a 10-minute introduction. Candidate Suozzi has elected to go first. That'll be followed by candidate Martins. Then we're going to go into the question and answer period, and at the end of the evening there'll be a 1-minute wrap-up, and they'll reverse the order. And as we go through the questions, we'll flip-flop along the way. So on that note, Tom Suozzi, please take the floor.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you very much, everybody, and thanks everybody for coming. This is a wonderful turnout. I'm very excited to be here today. I'm sure Jack is as well. This is the first time that we've shared a stage with each other, and it's going to be a very long campaign for the both of us, for our families and our supporters, and we're happy to be kicking this off here in Sands Point. I've been here many times before when I served in my prior capacity as County Executive of Nassau County, and Jean Marie was just reminding me that it was here in this room that we first had the idea to set up the Sands Point Preserve Conservancy. It was called the Friends of Sands Point in those days. And they've done a fantastic job rehabilitating this building. The gardens in the back, the infrastructure they've done in this building was falling apart when the county ran it in the old days. Let's give them a big thank you for the good work they've done here for many, many years. And it was back in 2001 that I first met with the Civic Association when I first was running for County Executive of Nassau County. And of course, I know many of the people in this room, so I'm very happy to be here, and I'm sure Jack knows many of the people in the room as well, having served this area as the state senator. I don't have anything bad to say about Jack. I think that we have share a lot in common. We went to the same high school as each other. We both went to Chaminade High School, and we're both first-generation Americans. My father was born in Italy and came to the United States as a young boy and lived an American success story. And I still believe in this country, and I still believe in politics. As much as everybody is sick of politics these days, everybody has had it with politics and nothing getting done in Washington, D.C., and in Albany on many occasions. I still believe that you can do good things, if you can bring good people together to try and fight for change. But it's not easy in the contemporary environment. It's very hard to change the status quo. To change the status quo, you need three things. The first thing you need is the answer. What do you want to change it to? And unlike being mayor of Vancouver County, executive of Nassau County, there's lots of answers, a lot of good work that's been done by think tanks and smart people about what are some of the solutions to the problems we face in our country to make things better. So finding answers, getting answers, we disagree on a lot of things, but we agree on a lot of things as well. But finding the answer is not the hardest part. The second thing you need is the guts to stand up to the people that are benefiting from the status quo. People have been fighting for 30, 40 years about gun violence. People have been fighting for 30 years about immigration. People have been fighting for 30 years about climate change. People have been fighting for 30 years about so many, even health insurance was such a big issue going back to Richard Nixon. They finally made changes under Barack Obama, and now people say, it's terrible what you did, we're good. So let's fix it. Let's make changes. So the problem that exists is you have to have the guts to stand up to the status quo, the people that are benefiting from the status quo, because they're going to do everything they can to squash you, to stop you from making a change. And the third thing you need is the ability to navigate the system, to actually get things done, to actually make those changes in the context of the politics and the government and the bureaucracy and the media and all the different forces that are working against that change, that are being manipulated by the very powerful forces that I'm talking about. So I believe that I'm the only candidate in this race that has a record of standing up to powerful forces like that, of taking the chances that are necessary, that often cost me a lot politically, but were necessary to make changes to get things done. And so I used a few different examples, not because of the issues themselves, but to show what it takes to get things done. I started a thing back in 2003 and 4 and 5 called FixAlbany.com. And I said that Albany's broken. And I said the Democrats under Shelley Silver and the Republicans under Joe Bruno are just as much to blame for the dysfunction that we face in the state. And back then, it's more true now, more people had been indicted in the state legislature that lost their jobs at the polling booth for 5 years. Nobody likes the state legislature, but everybody gets reelected. So I said we have to defeat incumbents and fight to make change, because 95% of them get reelected anyway. Even though everybody's unhappy, they all get reelected anyway. So that's what's happening in Congress these days. In Congress, there's a 14% approval rating. That may be high right now. 14% approval rating, yet there's a 95% reelection rate. There's something not working in our system, that the system is not changing to make the changes that we in our cocktail parties and in the house party, when we're talking to each other, we all say, why don't they just do this? Why don't they just do that? Because it's so hard to just do that, unless you have the idea, and you have to have the guts, and then you have to have the ability to navigate the system to make those changes. So when I did FixAlbany.com, I was trying to get a Medicaid cap for Nassau County. Nassau County, New York State is unlike every other state in the country, and that we usually pay at the time, 25% of the Medicaid cost. No other state has to do that. In most states, it's 50% feds, 50% state. It's different percentages, but that's the idea. In New York State, it's 50% the state, 50% the feds, 25% the state, and 25% the counties and the city of New York. So when I was county executive, I raised property taxes my first year in office. I was cutting the size of the workforce from 8,500 down to 7,500. I was consolidating departments. I was getting in fights with everybody, trying to make changes, to try and make all these dramatic things better in the county. Yet I saw my Medicaid costs going up 14% a year. I said, oh, this is Albany's fault. I talked to the other county executives. They were all saying the same thing. I talked to Mayor Bloomberg, same thing. Turned out Ed Koch had been fighting the same issue since the 1970s. It wasn't until we did FixAlbany.com where I defeated an incumbent state assembly person, a Democrat, in my own district, and helped defeat an incumbent Republican in the state Senate, that people started paying attention. I was made president of the New York State County Executives Association. We went with Democrats and Republicans, upstate and downstate, all throughout the state of New York, and called attention to this issue and actually got them to make a change. With the governor at the time, Pataki, Joe Bruno, and Shelley Silver. But I got a lot of political deficits because of that. I was disinvited to the Democratic National Convention by Shelley Silver. I ended up going anyway. I got tickets from the presidential candidate that year. But when you want to fight to change things, sometimes you have to take on your own party to do that. I've proven that I did that with FixAlready.com. I ran for governor of New York State. Do people know that I ran for governor of New York State? That did not turn out very well for me. Didn't turn out very well for him either, right? Elliot Spitzer, that wasn't good. I'm still trying to get a refund from my investigators. But the mayors are going to be happy to hear this, but I was fighting for a property tax cap, really for the school districts mainly, to stop the growth of property taxes here on Long Island. I knew that was the biggest problem. And everybody was mad at everybody because of the property tax. It wasn't the mayor's fault, and it wasn't the school board's fault, and it wasn't the county executive's fault. It was the state, because the mandates were being pushed down onto these local governments. And I said we have to have a cap, and it'll force the other changes that are necessary with mandate reform, and with increased state aid and everything else. I got squashed like a bug in that election. I got killed in that election. Elliot Spitzer was against the property tax cap. But a year later, he appointed me as chairman of the New York State Commission on Property Tax Relief. And when he lost his job, the next guy appointed me as chairman as well. I traveled the state, I worked with Democrats and Republicans, and we issued a report and laid out a property tax cap for New York State and the reasons why our property taxes are so high. It's not just like an emotional thing, it's objective proof as to why it's happening and reasons for why it's happening. And later on, under the state legislature and Governor Cuomo, they passed the property, Jack supported it. There was a property tax cap passed in New York State. But that took a lot of tough decisions on my part and getting beaten up pretty badly in order to push for that property tax cap. And there were other fights I had as well, related to the Nassau County Police, for example. You know, the Nassau County Police, they do a great job. We love them, they're fantastic. And right now, we all need to show our support for our police. Let's give our police and law enforcement a big round of applause. But I said, listen, we have a financial crisis. We can't keep on giving 5-6% raises every single year after year in the midst of this financial crisis. We can't afford it anymore. And I said, I'm going to expose what's going on with these raises every year. And I got beaten up by the Nassau County PBA. They ran a $3 million ad campaign against me. They flew a plane over Jones Beach. It said, Tom Suozzi, good for the bad guys, bad for the good guys. They had a TV commercial, the lady shaking in her bed, the guy breaks through the window, he's got a mask on. Tom Suozzi doesn't care about your safety. Tom Suozzi, good for the bad guys, bad for the good guys. So my daughter was watching the commercial at the time. She's a little girl. She sees the commercial. She says, Daddy, she says, why are you good for the bad guys? So I explained to her, I said, you know, we just seen the movie Spider-Man. And I said, you know, I'm Spider-Man. Spider-Man's always fighting to do the right thing, to help the people, but the newspaper writes bad things about him. She said, yes. I said, Daddy's just like Spider-Man. So I see my time is up. I had a lot more to talk about, but to change things, you need to have those three elements that I was talking about. I've got a proven record of standing up to powerful forces, even when it costs me politically, to try and make change on behalf of the people that I serve. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. First, I want to thank the Sands Point Civic Association for hosting. I want to thank the Friends of the Sands Point Preserve, not only for their efforts here in restoring this wonderful building and keeping a piece of our history here on Long Island alive, but also for being such gracious hosts today and so many times over the last few years. I've had an opportunity to participate and to be here, and certainly had an opportunity to meet with many of you. Well, I'm not running for the state senate. I'm running for Congress this year. I've had the privilege of serving as the state senator for the 7th Senate District for the past 3 terms. And we want to talk about what are those things that are important to all of us. Well, I'll start with my wife of 21 years next month. We're very proud to be raising our 4 daughters, Caitlin, who's 19, Vanessa, who's almost 17, Emma, who's 10, and Caroline, who turned 8. And if you figure it out, yes, Caitlin is a freshman in college, thankfully going to Binghamton University, and if you work out the math, we'll be paying for college for the next 20 years straight. But we live in interesting times, and we talk about those things that are important to us and those things that need to be done, and this election is just such an election. On a national stage, on a local stage, there's an opportunity for people to take stock of what's happening around us. Those things that are happening internationally, those things that are happening nationally, and of course those things that are happening locally. Prior to going and being elected to the state senate, I had the privilege of serving as the mayor of Mineola for 4 terms, so between 2003 and 2010. From 2011 through now, I've been in the state senate. Prior to that, I was a practicing attorney. I am now active and an owner of a construction company here on Long Island as a small business owner. There are challenges there as well. But when we talk about those things that are important to us, I like to point out some of the things that we did in Mineola, some of the important things that we've done, some of the challenges that we took on. And for those of you who remember Mineola back in 2002 and 2003, $33 million in debt, less than $500,000 of a negative fund balance. You look at some of those things and some of the challenges that we had, and you look at where we were in Mineola when I left in 2010, with surpluses every year. And yes, we did have to make decisions with regard to adjusting our finances. We did raise taxes in Mineola for those first few years. But when we left, Mineola was far better off than when we got there. And frankly, that is not only the challenge that we have in government, not only the willingness to make a difference, but also the ability to make a difference and make a positive change. And so when you look at Mineola when I got there, and you look at things that happened when I left, the master plan, the construction that's going on, the housing that's being built there, the affordable housing, the commitment to next generation housing and transit-oriented development, the commitment to restoring our parks and rebuilding our library, those are things that were done while I was there, and that was an investment in our community, and we did it because we worked together. We had the opportunity to revision our village and decide for ourselves what our path would be. And every step of the way,